Hey there, Taurus. How are you doing? So this is your forecast for the next 2-week period, starting from the 27th of April and taking you right the way through to the 12th of May with the full moon in Scorpio. Now, this is an interesting 2-week period, I have to say, in terms of the previous forecasts that we've had over the last 2 months. This one doesn't seem quite as fiery or charged as the previous ones. I don't think you're having to soul search quite so much. However, I do see that there's a lot of energy here creating a sense of redesign. I think what's gone before in the last couple of months is bringing up a feeling of it's time to redesign my life. And that's what these 2 weeks I see are for. So what I'm going to do is pace you through this period of time and using the 3 charts for the new moon and the full moon and the sort of midway point, the first quarter, like halfway through this 2-week period. Hopefully you'll get a sense of how this can work for you. If you're new to this channel, my name's Louisa Tanner-Munson, and with Feel Good Astrology, I try to deliver astrology in such a way that it doesn't feel fatalistic. It doesn't feel like if you don't do this, it's all going to go wrong. My whole purpose here is to help you feel optimistic and to see that there's choice and possibility with astrology. If you've been here before and you've come back, then welcome back. Thanks for coming back. I really appreciate you. But anyway, let's start to have a look and to dive a bit deeper. And the first thing that occurs to me, this is a waxing moon forecast. So the waxing moon forecast is all about the moon growing. I mean, obviously the moon's not growing. The moon is the same size throughout. But, with this, as we start this forecast, the new moon is a dark moon. It is completely unilluminated. What this means to me is we are blind. We are in a deeply intuitive phase. It's a very internalized process. It's a time when we don't have all the answers readily available and we have to tune right into ourselves. So you'll see by the end of this process, we're at the full moon stage and it's fully illuminated. What this means to me is this is a very externalized thing where we can absolutely see what's around us, see all the opportunities. In fact, this is kind of like a clean slate. The new moon really shows us where we've got like a blank canvas. We've let go of a lot of things and we're free to sow some new seeds and plant seeds of desire, plant things in the place into our life that we would like to bring forwards into our world and into our existence. And the full moon really shows where things have manifested. Now, I'm not saying if you sow a seed at the time of the new moon that 2 weeks later it will be fully manifested. I don't think it works like that. But around the time of the full moon, I really think that we get the true cost of where our thoughts and energies have taken us. So this is, the waxing moon phase, which is a growth period. We can be sowing things that could be manifesting and feeling great around the time of the full moon, or if we're kind of swimming in negative thoughts and we're not really being mindful of how we're using our energy, we could have some quite chaotic things. And I think around the time of the full moon, it really gives you a clue as to how you're doing. Are you really creating the life the way you want it to be? I.e., it feels exciting around the time of the full moon. Yes, there's lots coming in. Might be a bit overwhelming, but you're buzzing. Or does it feel terrible? Does it feel like, really overwhelming, emotionally overwhelming? I think at those times it shows that at some point in this journey, you've made some decisions that aren't in alignment with who you are. So I really see that this 2-week period is about you getting back into alignment and to growing the energies that you really want to see come up into your world. And the first part of this, coming up to the first quarter, it's mainly in the dark, which means we are absolutely tuning in. We are needing to use our full intuition, a process of self-inquiry, journaling, meditation. We are not so outward. We are a lot more internalized. We're a lot more at home. And as such, I think we need to take it easy. We need to be really gentle with ourselves because we are our own tool. We are the person that we need to be listening to. So we need to really make sure we are kept in top condition. As we come into this second part of the forecast period, from the 4th of May, we're a lot more externalized. Clues and information are coming at us or towards us. And so we need to be able to receive information and be open to it and then to be able to process it. So this is much easier, I think. And it's a lot faster. Things start to speed up as we go through this 2-week process. And as such, I think it's also important just to quickly see how this feeds into an actual diary. I find it quite helpful to see how it can be laid out. It looks, I'm able to sort of visualize it in my mind's eye. So, the new moon in Taurus starts on the 27th of April on a Sunday. The midpoint, halfway through from dark to light, that is on the 4th of May. And that really represents a choice point where we're needing to step it up a bit. And then the full moon in Scorpio, again, this is based on British times. I'm in the UK time zone. It appears to be happening on like in the early hours of Monday, but you might find if you're in North America or Hawaii, for instance, that this is actually happening on the 11th. So just, you might need to check your own times. And I recommend timeanddate.com is a great place. If you go to the sun and moon tab, I think it's called, and then go to the moon cycles or moon phases, you'll see the actual time of the new moon and the full moon in your own unique time zone. So please feel free to use that. In between these two moons, and I think these are like emotional bookends at, at the ends of each of these this period of time. The new moon is pretty involved. You've got all the energy of new potential and this blank slate and this feeling of, right, I'm ready to start again. And at the same time, there is an ongoing opposition between Pluto and Mars. It's been going on. It's been coming in since the end of October. We had an exact opposition between the Pluto and Mars on the 3rd of November, then another exact one on the 3rd of January. And then we've got the last one going exact on the 27th of April. So this is the last one. After this point, thank goodness, Pluto and Mars are coming out of their opposition. However, even by the time of the full moon in Scorpio, they are still technically in opposition, but it's getting easier and easier and easier. So it's all starting to release and unravel, I think, from the new moon in Taurus. However, right at the end of this forecast period, the full moon itself is really quite spicy. The full moon is in opposition to the sun, which it always is, but it's in opposition to the sun in a conjunction with Uranus. Now, Uranus really makes things unpredictable. And the full moon, at the best of times, is a time of emotional, like when we're highly emotional, highly charged, highly triggerable. And so I think this particular full moon is going to be quite interesting. It has the possibility of it going completely out of control. And it just so happens that, we've got the full moon in Scorpio, the moon and the sun in fixed signs, and also Pluto and Mars are also in fixed signs still. So it's like we have these two oppositions in what looks like a grand cross. It's actually not in a cross, but it is still very, very fixed, and it's creating a really strong energy. And so what I'm going to do over the next short while is go through three different charts. Three different charts for the new moon in Taurus, the switch point midway through, and then the full moon in Scorpio. But like I said, these two big moons are like bookends, and in between, I think this is a time when we need to be quite soft with ourselves. I don't think we need to quest. I think we need to observe what's going on. I've looked at each of the signs from different perspectives. For instance, I record a relationship and connection forecast for each sign of the zodiac, and also a career and ambition forecast for each sign of the zodiac. And I've already recorded these. And, I can tell you when I've deep dived into each of these, I really see that, in between these two moons, it feels like we're in this moment of deep change. It feels like we're formulating a new plan, but we're still internalizing things. So it's with that energy that I share this information with you. So in this 2-week period, the first one is really quite, I've only included the most important aspects as I see them. So the first thing is Venus is going into Aries, having been in Pisces for quite a while. And Venus is going into Aries on Wednesday, the 30th of April. Now, Venus isn't very strong in the sign of Aries. However, she's been in Pisces where she's exalted, but she's a little bit of a people pleaser, a little bit magical, and also not necessarily very clear. And so Venus coming into Aries, I think, is marking a time when we're coming back into emotional clarity and clarity in terms of our relationships. We're ready to take action a little bit more with the people we're relating to. And I think this is a good thing. I think the spring in particular with Venus and Mercury retrograde has marked a time when a lot of us have been in a state of confusion. It's given us a lot of time to really review how we feel in life, and what's working, what's not working. However, I really see that Venus moving into Aries on the 30th of April as being a time when we're ready to move forwards a little bit. And, Venus is also coming into a conjunction with Neptune on Friday, the 2nd of May. Now, this is also really interesting to me because Venus has already made 2 conjunctions with Neptune this year. That's not normal. We normally have 1 conjunction each year. And for the last 13 years or so, Venus has made her conjunctions with Neptune in the sign of Pisces, which is very much like a fairy godmother kiss, or, someone waving a magic wand. It's very magical. It's full of promise. It's full of imagination, and like really sort of like pulling your highest dreams together and believing in rainbow colored unicorns. It's all sort of like magical and very much like a little 5-year-old girl's birthday party, but not necessarily about to take action. Now, Venus coming into a conjunction with Neptune on Friday the 2nd is going to be the first one that's occurring in the sign of Aries. So what I really think that this is a moment for us to wish big, but start to form a plan to make our wishes come true. Venus and Neptune is really about feeling the flow and creativity at a much higher level and being able to integrate it into our bodies. So I really think we can, anything we want to bring into a clear manifestation, anywhere we want to feel elevated and ethereal and celestial and feel really, really great that our life is really turning out in the way we want it to. Now we can start to build it as part of a plan. This Venus conjunct Neptune in Aries is asking us to take action. And if you're ready to take action, I think the necessary steps will all start to fall into place, in particular after the 4th of May. So I really think the 2nd of May is a time to hold the potential energy of this particular conjunction. I think it's exciting. Now, in week 2, there's some real building block energies. In particular, on the 5th of May, Mercury in an exact sextile with Jupiter is really showing that we can be a lot more friendly, a lot more collaborative. We can talk plainly and a lot. We can share a lot together. And so I think this is a really helpful energy, especially as we're coming into the more lightened times of the moon. The moon appears to be getting bigger and bigger and bigger in the night sky. We are more consciously aware of great things, great helpful collaborative things in our life. So friendships are really, really important. And then on the 6th of May, Venus is in a sextile to Pluto. Now, this could be great if you're in a sexual relationship, a loving relationship as well. Things could get really deep and your trust in each other can really deepen. But, however you choose to use this energy, I think the ability to trust in the process and trust each other and go deeper into our collaborative lives, I think this is working beautifully. Now, on the next day, Mercury makes an exact conjunction with Chiron, and this could be quite ouchy if you're triggered and if you don't have great relationships with people, for sure. If there's no outlet for this could be quite difficult. But Mercury in a conjunction with Chiron in the sign of Aries is really showing this moment where we can be transparent, we can articulate what we've been feeling, and I think where our feelings really come up in such a way that we know what's going on. Like often, I think our hurts, particularly psychological wounding, I think it can be, we can separate it from ourselves. We talk about, when this happened to me, and it's almost like a badge of honor. And the moment we label it, we see it slightly outside of ourselves, like it's a thing. And when it's slightly outside of ourselves, it's really difficult to process things, So I really think with this Mercury conjunct to Chiron energy, we are able to feel what's going on, to be able to talk about it, and for the potential of it to be processed. So if you add these 3 together, and remember, these are the days when these energies are exact. That's not to say they're I mean, to be fair, they're already in place pretty much throughout this whole 2-week period. But this is the fulcrum point of this. This is when they're really, really coming into play. So I think the 5th to the 7th of May in particular, it marks a time when we can come together as friends. We can feel things much more passionately and come into a deeper level of trust and truth, and also open up to the things we're vulnerable about. So this could represent a time of great change within relationships. Now, coming up to the 10th of May, Mercury moves into Taurus. And then I think the way we communicate is starting to get a lot more practical. And I think that's helpful, so we take some of the fire out of some of the communications that are going on. And maybe in the news, things won't be so inflammatory, although who knows, I suspect they will. But Mercury into Taurus is really, I think we will be communicating from a place of practicality, with provable evidence, and in such a way where we're trying to work together rather than trying to piss each other off, which I think is a good thing. So that's how I think these 2 weeks, these are the things that really stand out. But before I go any further, and I will bring up the 3 charts I've selected in just a moment. But before I do that, I want to just say a big thank you to everybody that supports this channel. I really, really admire you, and I'm really glad that you're in my life. Thank you so much for this. People support the channel through buying me a coffee, or also, I've got a membership, Feel Good Astrology Community, where there are extra readings. I'll tell you about it a little bit at the end, but all the details are below in the description field. So if that sounds like something that might be interesting to you, to support the channel, to get extra readings, to get discounts and things like that, and also the chance to join us, there's a growing, lovely sort of team feeling there, then please do consider that. But anyway, let's have a look at these charts now. So Taurus, what I really think with this, this 2-week period, is this is your time. You've got the new moon in your sign on the 27th of April. This is when this forecast period is starting. And it's great. The new moon is always the time, especially when it's in your own sign. This is the time when you're coming back into yourself. Your moon patterns, like your emotional patterns, your ego patterns represented by the sun, they're in an alignment. It's like you're speaking the same language. There's a moment of integration. And from that perspective, I think you're really coming to a time where you know what your next steps are. And that's the beauty of a new moon in your own sign. It really feels like you get a full dose of the Taurian you, so that you know who you are, you're reminded who you are, and you know what the next steps are to take. Now, you're ruled by Venus. Venus is the ruler of Taurus, and Venus is going through some changes in this month ahead. And I think it's worth pointing that out. She starts off in Pisces, and she's been there kind of making friends and helping you to feel quite supported by your friendships. And then from the 30th, she's coming into the sign of Aries. And I really think this is a time when it would be good for you to have a little bit of a rest, just a little bit of a rest, not a massive rest, but a rest to take in what you've done really well so far, to really feel into how it is in your body. Like, what is the relationship with your emotional self? What is your relationship with your body? See, Venus is all about relationships, and where she's just come from in the sign of Pisces, you've been focusing so much on your outer relationships with your networks, your friends, the society around you. You've really related to the world that you're living in. And yet this is your time to reconnect and relate to yourself, to your mental health, your emotions, what they're saying to you, what your body is saying to you. This is your time to really come inside. Now, Venus in a conjunction with Neptune, I think, is going to be helpful. Neptune coming into this part of your chart last month, it really brings up a lot more intuition. And it can be a bit scary at first, when your intuition just suddenly really comes online. But I think Venus here is going to help you to navigate between these sudden bursts of intuition, this sudden burst of knowing, and how to integrate it into your sort of everyday world. The kind of private world and then your everyday world are different entities. And so what I really see would be useful for you in this 2-week period is to start journaling or meditating or having conversations with someone that you can really, really trust, and that you don't have to worry about what they think of you, or to like talk to the mirror. One thing that I did, when I first became a mum, I used to go walking for a couple of hours a day. It kept my baby quiet, and I wore him on in a sling, but I would go walking for a couple of hours and I would just be talking to myself. To any onlooker, it looked like I was talking to my baby, but I was having conversations with myself. And I think this like stream of consciousness is helping you to relate to the inner you and bring it into your everyday life. And I think it's really important to hear that stream of consciousness. So anywhere where your intuition is really bubbling up, and, Neptune also shows us where we're idealistic, where we've got these like really big sort of compassionate, kind, higher love kind of energies and vibrations. But it will give you a chance to really connect in with those and how to feel them into your physical body. Now, I say that quite markedly because Venus is going into Aries, which is where Neptune already is. And Aries is ruled by Mars. And so, this really is about the physical body. Like Mars is currently in this place in your chart to do with feeling grounded. So the more you can ground your empathy, your emotions, your like your soul, your mental health, everything that's going on kind of behind the scenes, in private, in the quiet of your mind, when you're sleeping, the unconscious, all this kind of hidden stuff, the more you can ground it into your everyday reality, the easier life will be. Because this is part of the new reset for you. I said the sun and the moon are coming into Taurus. This is the chance to kind of reset who you are. And there's a massive part of yourself that's yet to be developed, to be enjoyed, to really come forward into your persona. So this is a really big part of what's going on right now. And that's why I think in the introduction, I said that, it feels almost like you're on a development plan, like you're rewriting your script. So yeah, really listen to what's going on here, because this will give you all the clues that you need to include in the script you're writing for yourself. But there's more that I want to share. Pluto and Mars in their opposition, they are currently in between your 4th and 10th house. This is huge. It's like you're being stretched, like really, like from the base, from your root chakra, from your feeling of groundedness, and then from that sense of who you are at the top of the world. And it's kind of stretching you out of your body. It almost feels like you've got this tension between the very, very real, personal and individual and possibly hidden you. Like the 4th house is a place where we take refuge and we want to find security, and we can be quite quiet here as well. And then this very public you at the top. And Pluto coming up here can show your fears of being seen, but also your fears of not being seen as well. And so it can bring up quite a lot of conflict. You might feel like to redevelop you, that you've somehow got to come out of your sense of home and just be up here in this world where it feels a little bit scary. And, a lot of Taurians have a bit of a shyness about them. So this might not be very comfortable for you, and to be fair, Pluto is quite new in this sign. It's going to be going through this sign for quite some time. So I will share more about that. And if that is a bit of a problem for you, I would go to my Pluto and Aquarius videos. I've got 3 of them with 3 lots of forecasts for you. So that could be quite useful. But this new moon is really going to get you to kind of step out of your home, step out of your future and your career, and really focus on what would work best for you. I know that sounds kind of weird, because ultimately, when we're thinking about our career, it tends to be our ego that's really drawing that in. Like, if I don't do this, this won't happen. And if I don't do that, that won't happen. And of course, there'll be this result. And so we get into this really big story about all the things we have to do, because if we don't do them, this won't happen. But here's what you're realizing at the moment, I think, in this 2-week period, is actually it all comes from here, and how you think about yourself. That's what drives your story. And so if you've already created the outcome that you're needing to get in your career, like I have to do this, 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 and this to be able to do this, to be able to live, to be able to feel secure, you're not giving yourself the chance to like use your full spectrum of creativity, because you've already kind of like finely defined the direction you're going in. And so this 2-week period, especially when Venus is in your ruling planet, is in the 12th house, this is a time to dream. So I wouldn't make any big decisions right now. This new moon in Taurus is to give you a sense that you are on a new journey, but I don't think you have to commit to it and say, this is what I'm doing today. I think give it some time, allow these energies to come in. You know, Taurians are known for their patience, so don't be in a rush. As we go through this, you know, Mercury comes up into an interesting conjunction with Chiron. I think at that point, around the 7th, you're going to get some really possibly sharp, but possibly very, very clear ideas on maybe how you sabotage yourself and sabotage your efforts. In particular, how you sabotage any like income or any help and support. And Jupiter here is really to show you that there's a lot more support available to you than you realize. And so I think you're going to have quite a few awakening thoughts during that time. And then as we're coming up to the full moon in Scorpio, this is really going to bring to mind what's going on in your relationships. Yeah, so it's bringing up a lot of tension around your relationships. Your relationships will absolutely be feeling emotional, like in an emotional place. And, you know, it's difficult to keep your head and to keep really, really focused on who you are whilst you're worrying about what's going on in your relationships. But what I would say about this full moon in Scorpio is it's bringing into clear view how difficult it is sometimes to really be yourself when you are by default wondering what's going on with your partner. You know, Pluto and Mars in opposition, they're both the rulers of your 7th house. Now, you know, they are also describing how your partners might be seeming right now and how your relationship might be seeming right now. So this difficulty that I was describing, you know, about feeling stretched out of your being, almost stretched out of your body, like from feeling, you know, this is what I need for my security and this is what I need for my career, and how much influence and power I might need. But really, in coming back to yourself, I think you're teaching your partners how to come back into their selves as well. And I just think around the full moon in Scorpio, this could be a time actually when you're able to have a breakthrough together. I mean, this is a possible breakthrough time. But if your partners are feeling a little bit emotional, it might also be a time to, you know, take a step back a little bit, you know, give yourself a bit of space. Now, obviously, if you want to know anything about your relationship, you might find a relationship and connection forecast helpful. I do these as part of my membership. And also, given that Pluto is right here at the top of your chart, you know, sort of influencing your career, you might also find my career and ambition forecast helpful. Now, I do these every time I release a new moon forecast or a full moon forecast. So twice a month, you'll get access to 2 forecasts, a relationship one and a career one. And so if you're interested in that, you might choose to have a look at my membership on School. So it's www.school.com/feelgoodastrology. You get 1 week's free trial, but you get access to these 4 readings a month and also to a community hangout. You know, so I had one a few days ago, and I always like speak to my members and say, look, what do you fancy talking about? And then we organize a time, or I organize a time, we hang out. And, you know, recently we've been looking at our charts together and analyzing and looking at how life-changing events have come in and looking at the patterns and really how reliably all of the big events that have happened to us have correlated in our birth charts. Really, what we've been doing is proving how astrology works. Now, if you are somebody who has thought about having a consultation with me, the discount that you get with membership might also be something that attracts you. So anyway, if you want to come aboard, you're free to. There's 1 week's free trial. And then if you want to commit, it's $22 a month. So if that is of help to you, Taurus, then yeah, just come aboard. All you have to do is go down into the description field and you'll see all of the links that you might need. But anyway, have a fantastic 2 weeks ahead. I really wish you a great time as you're redesigning your life in a way that's going to work for you, but sending you tons and tons of love. Take care. Lots of love. See you soon.